Welcome to Strange Blue Dot. This is your host, Felipe Osario. If you recognize the music, that's probably because you watched our previous show, Second Earth. Yes, we have departed, well, at least for now, in hopes of, kind of getting that bad algorithmic scoring system out of our shadow, so to speak. Now, we did often breach what some would consider edgy topics in the past, but in doing so with this new series, we hope to offer a more analytical and credible version of our previous show. Think of Strange Blue Dot as a souped-up Second Earth with more consistent episodes, a drive towards critical analysis with more engaging content, but still nonetheless strange. Sometimes reality is stranger than fiction. Now, for today's episode, I wanted to analyze some footage I found on YouTube. Now, one in particular is of a Moon UFO that you may have heard of before, as it's picking up a ton of traction on the internet. Now, is this the works of CGI, or is there something more extraterrestrial going on with this footage? Now, we're also going to be analyzing this UFO from Puerto Rico, as well as a YouTube video with less than 50 views. It hasn't really been widely viewed. So if real, you'll be one of the first to see this unidentified flying object. Now, we're going to be doing our best to give you a forensic analysis of whether these UFOs are fake, real, or inconclusive. As a quick disclaimer, I don't have a digital forensics degree, but I have worked on feature films as an editor, working with some effects, and I also manage a photo retouching studio. So from an editing and photo retouching perspective, I will certainly do my best to give you the most accurate opinion I can offer. So let's get to it. Now, I want to start off this episode with a Moon UFO that has been hotly debated on the internet. Now, from the skeptical perspective, this is just good CG work. A particular YouTuber by the name Cosmos Elementary, I should mention his video was on the very top because it was quote-unquote an advertisement. Well, he believes it's very good CGI work, and that at one particular moment in the 34th second, there's a halt in the atmospheric disturbance. Think about it as if everything were to suddenly freeze, like you're in the Matrix. Well, here's our analysis. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are here at the analysis pod. I have the footage in Adobe Premiere. And basically what I went ahead and did is I took the footage and I rendered it out as a whole bunch of JPEGs. And then basically, this is actually the end result, but let me backtrack it just for a second here so I can see what I did. Basically, it was just a tiny little image, and I just decided to kind of play around with some channel mixing filters. This is kind of the channel mixing that I got that kind of showed a lot of detail. And I went ahead and just kind of put a few layers until we got a nice colored image of the luminosity channel mixing that I just showed you. And the final step, this is the coolest part of this whole process, is I went ahead and all those steps I just showed you, I automated. Basically, I'm gonna have Photoshop repeat those steps for every single frame, and then we're gonna compile that back into a footage, kind of like no different than a time lapse. So yeah, without further ado, here's what we have. Either way, whether fake or real, I'm gonna say it right now, very, very cool. I'm gonna be honest with you. When I first saw this skeptic video and he was talking about the atmospheric disturbance, I kind of saw his point that he was trying to make, but I didn't really see the disturbance in such a dramatic way that made me think for certain something was off. So what ended up happening for me was when I looked at this video, I was certain that I had my quote-unquote got you moment. And let me show you what I'm talking about. So we have these crafts that are entering here, but just when they, notice how they're producing their own cloud. So right before, at this exact moment, if you look at the crater standing right underneath them, look how the crater is completely cleared of shadow. And now check this out. Within one frame, see how it's very white, and then boom. So for me, when I just saw that one frame, I thought, okay, no, it's too much happening there in just one frame. You see how it's completely dark now. So that just didn't make sense to me. I thought, okay, that seems like it's more like CG work. But here's the thing. The more I start analyzing the shadows, the more I realize that this isn't easy CG at all, if that's what it is. And let me show you another thing that's happening here. As these crafts are going across the dark side of the moon, you notice how there's something kind of hazy in the background. Now, I'm not saying that this is not possible to do with CG. What I'm saying is, I don't know what technique they used. I don't know what this is. I know how to blend things, but it wouldn't end up looking like that very hazy, fuzzy atmospheric pressure. And the reason why I'm showing it like this is so you can see more clearly, as you can see the shadows very clearly. And but yet the haziness, it seems to be still nonetheless subtle. So I thought that was kind of interesting. But when I looked at the bigger version, that's when things got even more interesting, because here I am thinking, okay, I'm gonna get their gotcha moment. But the thing is, these crafts, if we can call them that, well, it's at this exact moment that we see the shadow suddenly pop in that you see the craft literally tilting. Do you notice how they're suddenly tilting? So the sudden variation in shadow would actually be expected if an object was kind of, as you see, just not only coasting through the surface of the moon, but essentially tilting around a crater. And following the shadow further, I swear, I was like, this is looking a little fake. I'm not sure if this is real, but check this out. Look at the transition of the shadow from right here, where you see the shadow kind of short as it hits a flat surface of the moon. Then it hits kind of a terrainy area and elongates. And literally in this very, very, very bright spot where it seems to kind of lift up, it almost disappears, which would actually make sense because it's this unusually bright spot. And look how it just stretches over the terrain over here. Then a few frames, which would be actually completely expected in a terrainy scenario like this. But the question is, how did he do this? Or how does she do this? The only way to model the movement of the cloud and the way that it's kind of churning and twisting and elongating around the terrain, the only way to do so is to actually map out the terrain in 3D. So it's possible. I mean, this image of the moon doesn't look like it's a CG. It seems like it would be a real shot of a moon composited with possible CG work with UFOs. And so if that's the case, you have to question once again, how do they map out the terrain in three-dimensionally? Is this, or did they map it out just a little bit, just to kind of generally map out the feature of shadow? That's also possible. So what I can say is it's really, really interesting. I definitely agree with the skeptic in saying that if it is CG work, it's very, very good CG work. But at this time, it's inconclusive. That's the best that I can offer. Now, before I get into deep discussions, I wanted to quickly show you this YouTube, Johannes Schenk, who has a video that has less than 44 views. Have we uncovered a gem in the YouTube video market? Let's check it out. Yeah, so I hope I didn't waste your time too much with that one. There are a bunch of obvious signs that this is a fake. For starters, just to give you a sense of what a fake actually looks like, you know, it's very convenient to have a camera perfectly positioned in a tripod and then a craft suddenly appears in the camera. So that's one thing that makes this suspicious. Something else to consider is the frame rates. Look at the frame rates of the clouds when compared to the frame rates of the object. You see how smooth the objects move, but how jittery the clouds are. And then, so we know this is fake for certain. Also, the flash looks absolutely ridiculous over here. You know, very cartoony compared to some of the other images that we analyzed. And then lastly, something else I want to show you real quick is this particular frame. See if I can get it in there. That frame. So this, whenever you see solitary objects that suddenly separate into almost like a double image, it's usually almost always because somebody put some kind of frame blending filter. You know, if you were to be using After Effects, this is not pixel motion. This would be just a regular frame blending filter. Yeah, so right there, you know, when you got a fake, there are usually a lot of signs, and I just want to show you to give you guys a sense of what we can look at when we see something that is not a real UFO. So as you can see, the CG version has obvious artifacts that I'm not seeing in the first one, even if you consider that there was a pause in atmospheric disturbance as the skeptic claims. Now we do have another interesting one to feature from Puerto Rico, so let's take a look. The video, as you can tell, starts out with what just looks like a random light. And it's zooming out. The camera seems to be having a hard time focusing on it. And then suddenly you notice that the object, this light might be spinning. And in the very end, as the camera finally captures focus, we see the object. Is this a CG? Is this a real object? Well, here is our analysis. Okay, so I kind of went through the same process as last time. I just kind of created a filter that would kind of penetrate through the light to see if there's any added detail that we could see with this, and if that would give us any further information or elucidate if this could be faked or not. So let's go ahead and take a look at the video. So something that I thought was kind of cool is right at this moment you see that in the left version it's spinning, though you don't necessarily see that in the right version, at least not until now. And you know, though it does kind of look very, very fake, I do have to admit that these moments where it's kind of blurring in and out, I think these are not exactly easy to do. I'm not seeing any obvious cutout, though there is a slight halo around the craft, so you know, make it as you will with that. It could mean that it was kind of inserted. But once again, if it is CG, it's, you know, it's kind of well done. I think the colorations here are very interesting. I think there's a type of subtlety that you see in the detail of the colors that I would not have necessarily expected. Just for kicks, let's go ahead and show you what happens when we combine the two together. And this is our result. something else that, when I look at this and you kind of compare the pixelation of the object compared to the pixelation of the background, there is something about the pixelation that looks almost too sharp. It looks like it almost looks like a larger object that was shrunk in a less pixelated background, and it seems like if it was CG, that they put some kind of light source on the right side that would be bouncing off the edges. Right over here you can kind of see it, which could be that subtle color that I was noticing. It could just be the CG is kind of elaborate, but once again, unfortunately, due to the graininess of the image, due to having no source footage, we just have to kind of say that this is inconclusive. But please let me know your thoughts and comments below. I'm very curious what the audience and the viewership thinks about this particular video. So when I first saw the footage, I was certain that it was a fake or just random balloons. But though it's inconclusive, I have to say that it's incredibly detailed. If someone were to be placing a simulated light via CGI, there seems to be a lot more details that would have taken place with this fake. For example, somebody who was using CGI would have had to model a 3D sphere that has its own textural and color properties that was hidden under a light source that is close to clipping in luminosity. So that is our analysis for today. I wanted to leave you off with an email I received from a very loyal viewer and subscriber who has recently encountered his own personal experience. Let's listen in.
When it got dark outside yesterday, I decided to sit in my apartment here in Denmark and do the CE5 protocols. I was doing it for 20 minutes, and then I decided to stop the meditation and stand next to my window to observe the night sky. After 10 minutes I saw an orb of light moving in the sky in a straight line, but at different speeds. I was so amazed about it that I decided to keep observing the night sky for 1.5 hours or so. In that time span I saw about 7 different orbs of light moving. Some of them moved and slowed down and then changed directions. One of the orbs was 3 times brighter than the brightest star I could see. This bright orb moved in a curved line and slowly faded away right above me far up in the sky. This is one of the most amazing experiences I've ever had. When I saw the documentary, I was convinced that the CE5 initiative was 100% real, but I was skeptical about if it was possible for me. Now I know that I have the possibility to make contact with my consciousness and that these beings really care about me and the rest of humanity.
So what is CE5? Well, this is a protocol that a former emergency room doctor from St. John's Hospital, Dr. Stephen Greer, pioneered. Though in concept there seems to be many mentions of this human ability in ancient scriptures, it's only recent that this has been discussed in mainstream culture. For those familiar with the story of Joan of Arc, well, it sure makes you question, do ETs actually pick sides in wars? Sounds far-fetched? Well, to some it may be, but for many others, it's a reality or experience they have never forgotten about. Now, if you have your own personal experiences that you would like to share, or any footage that you would, like us to take a look at, well, please don't hesitate to email me at eafiles.contact@gmail.com. Now, I promise all footage is kept strictly confidential, unless, of course, you provide explicit consent to share anonymously, or I guess if you would like, not anonymously. Anyways, thank you so much for following me, and don't forget to tell your friends about this new show, because believe me, you do not want to miss the next episode. We're going to be discussing a fairy hunter. Yes, you heard me right. This is not Lord of the Rings, but we're going to be talking about a pixie fairy researcher. So, Peter Pan, beware, because there is a brand new kid in the Never Ever Land. Well, I should say senior. You may think I'm just kidding, but believe me, the analysis has a surprise result that certainly shocked me, and I have a feeling might actually surprise you too. And don't forget to subscribe. No, not tomorrow. Come on, think about it. Do you really want to miss the Santa Fe Hunter episode?
That'll do.
As a last thought, I believe Carl Sagan said it beautifully when he referenced Earth as a pale blue dot. In this show, I like to think of his vision from a conscious perspective. How strange, this blue dot. This is Felipe speaking, signing out.